gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Quantum holography matrix engaged. Power to maximum. Quantum neural integration commencing. Upgrade complete. Gearbox online. Quantum reactor initializing. All systems coming online.
Doggy, yeah. Who doggy? Who doggy, yeah. Hey there, Gearbox. How you doing there? It's always good to see you there, buddy. And yeah, I'm ready to kick this thing off here. Get this potty started, if you know what I mean. Jiminy Cricket. Yeah, it's been quite the week, as always. Thank God for the weekends, let me tell you. Yeah, it's like that. Speaking of which, yeah, we should probably get this thing going. Hey there, recruit, and welcome back to the Heart of Geekdom. This is the House of G coming at you from an undisclosed location in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. Who doggy? Thank you, Gearbox. Boom, boom, shakalaka, boom. Well, I hope you're having a great weekend. It is Sunday. Happy Sunday to you. And I hope it's going well. Yeah, just to put it mildly, things have been something else, let me tell you. Today should be a very interesting conversation. Just put it that way. Just checking a couple things, make sure that everything is kosher where it's supposed to be. And you know what? I think we are ready to rock and roll here. So, yeah. Now, if you're new to the channel, if you're new to this journey, to this series, Journey into the Heart of Geekdom, well, this is part 4. And I highly recommend, if you haven't already, to go back to the beginning. Because what we're going to be talking about here today is going to be built upon the past 3 conversations. And that's fine. Yeah, if you got to click off here, go back to part 1 and watch it from there. It's going to take you a while. These are some very in-depth conversations, a great deal of information coming into this conversation. That's fine. Start at the beginning, make your way here. I promise you it'll be worth the journey. Because if you don't, well, you're not going to have that foundation to build upon in order to fully understand what's going on in this conversation. It's not to say you won't be able to understand it, but you definitely have a much greater understanding. And I have to recommend you start from the beginning. If you don't want to, that's your choice. That's fine. But that is the recommendation. So, all right, here we go. There we go. Boom, boom, chakalaka, boom. Hope you guys are having a great one. I'm having a good one so far. It should continue being a good one. It's been a fun weekend. It really has. Had a couple of really good streams over on Rebel Squadron, and yeah, it was good times. Definitely good times. I love being a geek. Let me tell you, I love having the chance to geek out. And well, this particular series has been an unexpected and very enjoyable journey so far. Very glad I started this. It's been very rewarding just for me. So hopefully it's been as rewarding for you guys. Those of you that have actually taken the time to come along on this journey. So yeah. Cheers, recruit, and bottoms up. Yeah, it's like that. So for those of you that might be new to this, yeah, we are journeying into the Heart of Geekdom, what it truly means to be a geek, what the Heart of Geekdom actually means, and we've started that journey by exploring the foundation of the Heart of Geekdom. For those of you that don't know, yeah, the foundation of the Heart of Geekdom is actually founded in the Bible, the Word of God. I know it's not going to be a popular thing to say, especially nowadays, but I hate to break it to you, them the facts. Because, yeah, old school geekdom, pop culture, there's a lot of the Bible in our old school pop culture. Comic books, movies, television shows, you name it. Yeah. There was, what was it? Wrath of Khan. Star Trek. No, not Wrath of Khan. Yeah. Wrath of Khan. Wrath of Khan. Yeah, it was Wrath of Khan. Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, the real one, the original one. Yeah, they make a very clear point about the Genesis weapon and the Genesis planet. They, in the movie, they directly connect it to the Genesis book in the Bible. Direct connection. So I hate to break it to you guys, you can't get away from this fact. And it's all throughout Hollywood history. Before Hollywood got really, really weird. Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments. You know, there's plenty of faith-based stuff that came out of Hollywood in the past. The Bible needs to be accepted in American pop culture and entertainment. So much of our pop culture is built upon biblical stories, biblical principles. Hate to break it to you guys, those are the facts. So we're getting back to the true heart of geekdom, which is founded on Christ-like principles. Now, the conversation leading up today begs the question: who is the seductress of the Heart of Geekdom? Who is responsible for leading the Heart of Geekdom astray into depths of perversion and degeneracy and corruption, being overrun with reprobate minds? It didn't just happen. No. Did not just happen. Someone caused it to happen. So that's the question. Who seduced society at large? And more specifically, geekdom away from the true heart of geekdom? Well, yeah. We're about to talk about who that seductress is. And I can pretty much guarantee you that the vast majority of you, you can't imagine, well, what we're about to talk about today. So, Gearbox, yeah, kick it on over. Let's get this party started. So, if you have in fact watched the previous series, then you are probably familiar with this image and what the significance of what is in this image, at least part of it. So as you may have guessed, yes, this is a stripper pole. And, well, it should be more properly labeled as in a shearer pole. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to stop watching now, go back, previous streams, and because there's just far too much information for me to rehash here. We already got plenty to talk about today. Yes, this is in a shearer pole. So I'm building upon previous conversations here, guys. So if you don't understand, you're going to have to go back. Now, I want to point out something. I did not mention it last time for a reason, because I wanted to save it for this conversation. Now, if you notice something, this is shearer pole, which is a altar to the little g goddess, Ashira. Well, sitting right smack in the middle of a cross-shaped stage. And I guarantee you that is not by accident. That is 100% by design. And you might be wondering what the significance of this is, besides complete and utter blasphemy. Well, I'm going to touch on the significance of this, and then we will continue the conversation and how it applies to the Heart of Geekdom in pop culture. Well, it may not be common knowledge, but it is known. If you've done your research, if you have had a previous interest in these things and looked into it yourself, you might have some idea. For the vast majority of people, probably have no idea whatsoever. Well, here's the thing. Back in the day, in biblical times, in the very early parts of the Bible, shearer poles were placed in the temple of God. For more than one reason. Here's the primary reason. See, Shira. Now, before we continue here, let me explain something to you for those that are new to this. Yes, Shira is a real entity. She's not human, but she's as real as you and me. These are not fictional names cooked up. These were real entities that had real power over people, which is why humanity worshipped them as little g gods. Plain and simple. A lot of people out there that want to say, oh, no, it's just a myth, and we don't know if they're real and whatnot. Give me a break. Give me a break. The more things change, the more they stay the same. These people that try to disparage the truth about these names, about these entities, well, the simple fact is they don't want you to know they exist. They want you to doubt their existence. Because, well, if you haven't figured it out already, I'm sure you'll figure it out in the conversation to come. And, conversations to follow. The simple fact is they want as much doubt in your mind as possible regarding the truth of our existence, our reality. Which is where pop culture comes in such a very powerful way that people just so thoroughly underestimate. Yeah. Ashira. Well, she is in fact a fallen angel. So she does not have a physical body like you and I do. Human beings are both physical and spiritual. I know people don't want to believe that, and they refuse to believe that at their own peril. The lack of a belief puts them in grave danger of just very destructive influences. Stone cold fact is we are both physical and spiritual beings as human beings. We're the perfect fusion of the physical and the spiritual. As a human being, if you try to take away either your physical self or your spiritual self, you are no longer a human being. You are incomplete. The only way to truly be human is to embrace both your physical and your spiritual as one. Plain and simple. Period. End of stop. Full story. Now, entities such as Ashira, they can take on physical forms. However, they do not have a true physical form such as we do. This is my physical form. It does not change. I cannot change it. This is my biology, born from my genetics, my DNA that God Almighty pieced together in my mother's womb. Let me share an interesting story with you. Because I know a lot of you are thinking, well, who are you, Rebel Commander? Why do you get to speak on these things? Where's your authority come from? Well, let me give you a little insight to some of my authority. My daddy was a preacher. My granddaddy was a preacher. I grew up in the church. I was born a child of faith. In my 20s, my faith wavered for reasons. I had a very rough life. Let's put it that way. So I doubted the existence of God, so much so I was a borderline atheist, and I was searching for answers. Just deep diving for answers, trying to understand, find factual information. Was God real? Did God exist? Because I'm not so sure he does anymore. Like I said, I was born a child of faith. I grew up in the church. Daddy was a preacher. Granddaddy was a preacher. So for me to waver in my faith and belief, well, let's use your imagination. How much trial and tribulation I must have endured to reach such a level of doubt, to just walk that line of atheism. Well, God brought me back to my faith, full circle. I have explored questions, sought answers that most people do not even want to acknowledge or think about, let alone explore. God Almighty has given me a great many answers. Yeah, it's like that. So getting back to it. Ashira. Well, ancient history tells us that Ashira. Oh, yeah. So, Ashira is, in fact, a fallen angel. She does not have a physical body. As such, she is an immortal being. She cannot die. Not a physical death, not like we can. There are two deaths for human beings. The physical death and the spiritual death if we go to hell, which is where Jesus Christ comes in. He saves us from the second death. Every human being shall die the first death. Only those that are saved by the blood of Christ will be resurrected and redeemed, saved from the second death. Now, entities such as Ashira, fallen angels, demons, they have no physical body. They are immortal, and they will continue to exist until the final day, Judgment Day, when the wicked, the unrepentant, the unsaved will be cast into the pits of hell to die the second death. So Shira, and she's not the only one. Baal is mentioned in the Bible. Moloch is mentioned in the Bible. Satan is mentioned in the Bible. And there are countless others. Satan fell to earth with a third of the host of heaven that rebelled with him. That's a lot of fallen angels, guys. And then we have entities such as Ashira. She's a special class of angel. And she wasn't the only one of her group that fell to earth and rebelled against God. But I digress. Ashira. Well, the reason for Ashira poles have been associated with the temple of God, in this case, the cross of Jesus Christ. It's right smack in the middle of this cross here, guys. You notice that? That's very significant. Well, especially back in the day, biblical times, people considered Ashira to be the wife of Yahweh, God Almighty, and by extension, Jesus Christ. Granted, this was before Jesus was born, but Jesus did exist before he was born. She considered herself to be the wife of God. At least she wanted to be. She fooled a whole lot of people into thinking that she was, which is why Ashira poles have been known to be associated with the temple of God, located within the temple of God, or so-called sacred prostitutes, having their own shrines within the temple of God. Why? Because she wanted to be the wife of God. Now here's the question you might be asking, wondering, why did she want to be the wife of God? And besides the obvious reason, power, influence, but there's a much more important reason that everyone has overlooked. You see, Ashira, before the foundation of this reality was laid, she and the other angels knew of God's plan. Not in totality, but they knew enough. They knew what God intended to do, to create this reality that he intended to create. These human beings that he intended to create from the dust of the earth. They knew his plans. Well, Ashira decided before the foundation of this reality was laid that she wanted to be the mother of humanity. It's the only reason for a woman to want to marry a man. To procreate. To bring forth life. She wanted to be the mother of humanity. Knowing that God had other plans. Knowing that God was going to create humanity from the dust of the earth. To create man from the dust of the earth. Well, she thought God was wrong. She thought he was doing it the wrong way. She thought that she should be the mother of humanity. Not some random speck of dust pulled from the earth itself. So, yeah, that's why this. That's why her and the others, that's why she spread her own false gospel, the gospel of the Shira, tricking humanity into thinking that she was the wife of God Almighty. Because she thought she should have been the mother of mankind. That's why this blasphemy exists. Now, what does this have to do with pop culture? Let's talk about that. Kicking off with Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. Now, I've been a fan of Star Trek and whatnot for a very long time. Very long time. And when Andromeda first came out, I watched a lot of it. I didn't have the chance to watch all of it because just life happens. You get stuff going on, you get busy, you just don't have time to watch everything. But I did watch a significant amount of it, and I enjoyed it for what it was back in the day. Well, one thing I've been doing in recent years is going back to the past year. Rewatching movies, television shows, stuff like that. Seeing them with fresh eyes. With fresh, renewed faith. Guided by the Holy Spirit. And the stuff that has jumped out at me has been just shocking, to say the least. As you're about to find out. And there was a lot of stuff going on in Andromeda. Maybe someday I'll dive deeper into Andromeda and other shows and movies and stuff like that. But for today, there's a very specific goal in mind. Now, there's an episode. I believe it was the Vault of the Heavens. Something like that. It was Vault of the Heavens, something like that. Season 3. And it had a very fascinating premise. There's a planet orbiting a sun. And the whole concept was fire and ice. And, well, I did a little research and come to find out. In the Andromeda Galaxy, in real life, scientists believe that there is, in fact, a planet that is both fire and ice. It's locked in orbit around its sun. So one side is perpetually facing the sun. The other side is perpetually facing away. So one side is frozen solid. The other side is just on fire. So that's where they actually got the idea for this premise. Which in and of itself is interesting. But they went way further with it than that. These entities here. Dylan and his crew, they discover this planet. They detect faint life signs or something. They go down to investigate. And these beings, well, they don't notice them at first because they look like the ice and the rocks. So they traveling through. And then they do this. They materialize, they shed their disguise, reveal their true forms. So yeah, it's a pretty, I don't know if you ask me, seems like kind of like a angelic almost being. Very bright, full of light. Now, in this moment, not a whole lot of detail. Can't really see a whole lot about it. Seems to be feminine. Seems to have like a feminine figure for the most part. At the same time, I don't know. They got the long hair. You can tell there's some slight female form to it. It's not like, I wouldn't say fully female, fully feminine. It's actually kind of androgynous. Yes, Mike. I mean, you got the long hair on this one. That's the only thing that really tells. And the facial features are on the feminine side. It's not completely convincing though, They keep popping up. They come out of the woodwork, attack the crew. Dylan's, they're all confused. Like, who are you? What are you? What do you want from us? As you can see, I mean, it seems obvious they are probably women. but just barely, you know? I mean, they're just, it's just so androgynous. It's hard to tell, except that they do lean towards the feminine. Every single image that you see in this episode with these creatures, clearly they're meant to be females. It's just not completely convincing at first glance. Dylan gets captured. You might have some idea where this is going just by looking at this one image. I'm not going to go into graphic detail, nothing like that. It's not that kind of channel. Not that kind of conversation, but yeah, they clearly have plans for him. Now this is where it gets interesting. So what we have here is a cocoon. And to give you a brief backstory, this is the cocoon of the queen of the species, of this race. As you might have guessed. Well, might be getting ahead of myself. So here's the thing. The species, I think she has to procreate once every 300 years or something like that. So it's a long period of time. However, there are no male of their species. She is a female alien. And she is the queen of her entire species. So much so, you know, her children cannot procreate. She has to procreate the entire race. Now, if you can imagine a human being doing that, they would kill her. But, you know, she's not human. So, she does that by finding a strong, worthy species. More specifically, a strong, worthy male from a strong, worthy species. And Dylan Hunt just so happens to show up at the exact moment when she needs to procreate in order to keep her species alive, to keep her civilization alive, to keep her people alive. Because they have to be reborn as this, this alien hybrid. Theoretically, it doesn't necessarily have to be human. But, at least in this case, she set her sights on Dylan. So yeah, she's looking to create a human-alien hybrid to perpetuate her species. Which is where we get this image from. They're having a conversation about the whole thing. She's trying to convince him to help her get the job done. Let's put it that way. So after a lengthy conversation, he agrees. Well, doesn't get overly explicit, but I'm sure they get the message across, you know. Honestly, I was extremely shocked by this. I did not see this back in the day when the series first came out. I just saw this for the first time like a few months ago. I was so shocked. Like, you have no idea. Like, this is not what I expected from something from Gene Roddenberry. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure Gene Roddenberry had already passed away by the time this came out. His wife was in charge of this stuff. That should tell you something right there. His wife approved this. Okay? And that matters. I hate to break it to you. The benefit of the doubt is very scarce in these conversations because this stuff is coordinated, it is planned, guys. They plan this stuff very carefully. So you might be wondering, what does this have to do with Ashura? Let me explain it. So as you can see, this alien queen mother, the mother of all her children, all of them. Yeah, she has what could be argued, kind of angelic properties of being of light. She can change forms, like her children proved. They're able to disguise themselves as ice and rock, and then transform into these pseudo-corporeal bodies. Let me show you. So she's got this physical body, but it's not permanent like ours are. So as they do their thing and complete the act, she dissolves into a cloud of energy and then just dissipates into nothing. And she is now the mother of an alien hybrid race. Now, why does this sound familiar? Well, here's why. Hopefully you've been watching since the beginning of this conversation. This character is modeled after Ashura. Whoever wrote this story, they are familiar with Ashura. Or at least the story's over. So they, well, I can pretty much guarantee at this point, whoever came up with the idea for the story, they're a worshiper of Ashura. They do know about Ashura. And they worship her. Now, there are a lot of people out there, whether they realize it or not, whether they know it or not, whether they're conscious of it or not, they worship the spirit of Ashura through their actions. Even if it's not a conscious thought in their head, their actions, the way they live their lives, is in line with the gospel of Ashura, which is a false gospel. Let's make that clear. So on some level, they knew exactly what they were doing. I guarantee they knew about Ashura. And they wrote this story as a form of worship to Ashura, to put her out there on the public stage, right under our noses, right in front of our faces, flaunting their twisted faith with our pop culture. It's back in the day, a long time ago. Fallen angels procreated with the humans against God's will and design. Ashura said a lot of fallen angel human hybrid children. And that's what this episode represents. Because she wanted to be the mother of mankind. And God said no. Let's continue. So we have V, the final battle. Well, I'm not kidding myself. V, the final battle. That's actually from the original V show. There's the V show, and then they went and did the V, the final battle to wrap things up. So I'm just kind of mildly dyslexic, stuff like that. It's stuff. It's the way my brain works. I've come to accept it. It's been like that for a long time, since the military. It's a vaccine thing. Don't get me started. So they remade the show. They rebooted the show. I forget when this was, 2000 somewhere, possibly 2009 or something like that, maybe. I watched a few episodes while it was going on TV, and then it just kind of dropped off my radar. I wasn't like too crazy into it. I didn't remember it being as good as the original. Because my whole family, we watched the original V show on TV as a family. Which is a great example as to why pop culture is so important here, guys. Pop culture is extremely important because entire families get hooked on this stuff, get engrossed in this stuff, consume this stuff. And without having any understanding of what they're watching, I hate to break it to you, this stuff does have an influence on you, on a subconscious level, on a spiritual level. Whether you realize it or not, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not, that is the truth. I'm spitting facts here. 6 ways till Sunday. So the visitor's big saying in this series, we are of peace always, holding out the olive branch to humanity, bringing advanced technology, an attempt to build a partnership, an alliance, or so they say. So we have here the Queen Mother. Once again, a Queen Mother. Interesting. And here's the thing. Yes, she is the mother of her race. All of the visitors, the aliens, they come from her. They don't procreate within themselves. As a society, she gives birth to these alien children. What she's doing here. See, she has this ability to influence her people, her race, with this ability of hers that she calls bliss. Another word for it would be ecstasy. And this is a part of the normal ritual that she goes through when instilling her people with bliss. She disrobes. She goes to this some sort of technological pad sitting in the middle of this room. It's very odd design. Makes you wonder what exactly is it supposed to mean. Got these spike things curving upward. Very interesting imagery. And then the light coming down upon her, lighting her up like, well, almost like an angelic being. Keep these spikes in mind. And she's doing her thing. Knowing that she's about to bestow her gift of bliss and ecstasy upon her children. Now, Shira, well, she's the goddess of lust. Some might say goddess of love. But her love is a very twisted and perverted, corrupted form of love. More appropriately called lust. So she, the V Queen, yeah, she's about to bestow ecstasy upon her children. I'm not thinking it's a very, let's say, kosher thing to do. Let's put it that way. She's got a Shira, goddess of lust. Look at the bee queen. gifting her children with ecstasy. You seeing the connection here, guys? Hopefully I don't have to explain it to you too deeply. And some more interesting imagery. She stretches her arms out to the side. Which I honestly found odd. Because it seems kind of like somebody when they're nailed to a cross. Remember, guys, none of this stuff is coincidental. None of this stuff is accidental. This is all by design, by people that know exactly what they're doing. So she's bestowing her children with ecstasy. And yes, it is sexual in nature. While taking the form of Jesus Christ on the cross. There's no seems about it. I mean, that is in-your-face blasphemy and sacrilege. But they're also trying to make a statement regarding, well, Ashura. They're trying to draw a connection between Ashura and Jesus Christ. And by extension, God Almighty. Funny story. I recently stumbled across somebody on Rumble who had posted just a completely random message on a completely random video that had popped up, and I clicked on. He is making the claim, no joke, that, well, Jesus Christ is in fact a woman. Not only is she a woman, but she's saving humanity from damnation through her gift of sexual perversion, to paraphrase. This is some random account on Rumble. I'm not even kidding. I just stumbled across this a few days ago. It blew my mind. This person was so convinced. So I had a brief conversation with them, and I told him, I was like, you're preaching the gospel of the Ashura there, buddy. He came back, he's like, no, I'm talking about Lilith. Excuse me? This dude was claiming that Lilith was the real Jesus Christ, saving humanity through sexual perversion. Boom. It's the first I heard of that one. I did correct him. I was like, yeah, I hate to break it to you, but Lilith and Ashura, they're playing for the same team. I'm not making this stuff up, guys. The only way you can't see this stuff is if you choose to cover your eyes. And a lot of people do, which is why we're in this mess to begin with. Why did they create such imagery to covertly flaunt? What's the word? My mind just went blank for some strange reason, some very strange reason. Flaunting their allegiance to Ashura. In the most heinous and blasphemous way possible. Well, it goes back to, well, Ashura wanted to be the mother of humanity, of mankind. Now, in order to be the mother of mankind, do the math. God and Ashura. Do the math. For them to have to... Hopefully I don't have to spell it out for you any further than that. This is their way of saying that God was wrong to make man from the dust of the earth, instead of making making Ashira the mother of humanity. They're using our pop culture to flaunt their beliefs, their rebellion, their wickedness, and their evil right in our faces. And the gratuitous, completely naked. The light is coming up to cover key parts. This is a very striking imagery. And for those that are not founded on the rock of Jesus Christ, they're going to be very easily hooked by this stuff and drawn in very perverse ways without having any idea what's going on up here and in here. This is a war that I've been fighting for a very long time. Specifically with this channel for over 3 years now. This is what I've been fighting against, guys. Oh yeah, and then there's this. So they're spaceships. Well, funny story. Now in the original V series, I don't remember them looking like this. Pretty sure they were just more flying saucer types. No. They upgraded them for this series. Notice anything striking about them? You're right. They look like the head of a snake. Also known as a serpent. Like the serpent in the Garden of Eden. Interesting connection there. Now the V are reptilian in nature. Reptilian. But they're not snakes. It's very interesting. They created a snake head for their flying saucer. Instead of something more lizardly, Doesn't quite math. Not quite. They want you to make that connection and miss the fact that it doesn't quite add up. It doesn't quite. Math doesn't quite math. Details matter, guys. Details matter. So we got a serpent head here. Reminiscent of, the serpent, which became the snake in the Garden of Eden. Very interesting connection indeed. They had to have done it for a reason. I keep something in mind. In Genesis, when it talks about the serpent, it says he, the serpent. But, it doesn't name the serpent. It doesn't give the serpent a name. Everyone assumes that the serpent was Satan. But the Bible doesn't call the serpent Satan. Something to consider. Something else you need to keep in mind. Shira, she's not just the goddess of love. She's not, in reality, just the goddess of lust. As we discussed in previous conversation, she had her shrine of prostitutes within the temple of God. Now, the Bible translation that I read specifically said male prostitutes, but I know for a fact she also had the female prostitutes. They also call themselves the sacred sluts. But it goes even deeper than that. The men would dress like women, and the women would dress like men. And they would go so far as to cut off body parts. And we're talking about ancient humanity, ancient history, biblical times. Old Testament biblical times. They'd be chopping off the body parts. Does that not sound familiar? And as far as modern society goes. Making some connections here, ringing some bells there, guys. And it said that Ashira, at least one of her forms, and they don't have physical bodies, guys. They can take virtually any form they want. At least they used to be able to. primary form that she would take, female with mannish qualities. So it's kind of androgynous, if you ask Mike. Going back to the Vault of Heavens from Andromeda, right? And hopefully shedding some light on the whole LGBT, specifically in this moment, transgenderism. Hopefully you guys are making some connections here. So as far as the serpent being a he, well, the serpent was in fact a serpent possessed by an entity. So the serpent itself was a he. But the question is, which entity possessed the serpent? It's a very important question that nobody's ever asked, not that I've ever heard. Something to think about. Now here's one of the most, well, it is the most startling aspect of this show. It was canceled after 2 seasons. Now, from what I've read, they were supposed to continue with the series, but not enough people watched it. So they, as we know in modern pop culture, they got no problem perpetuating a terrible television series that just does not get the ratings. But for some reason, they canceled this one after only 2 seasons. And here's how they, if you haven't seen it, here's how they finished this series. So the human freedom fighters, the resistance fighters, and they had aliens on their side, visitors that were helping them out. They were rebelling against the Queen Mother, as we now know as Shibra, and they were losing badly. And at the end of the final episode of season 2, the final series, for all intents and purposes, they lost. Without continuing the story, they lost. It was over. The aliens won, guys. They wrapped up this series with the Queen Mother, aka Ashibra, winning the war, dominating humanity. People spreading out across the entire globe, taking over everything. And one more piece of information regarding this series. Yeah, they needed human DNA to evolve their own species. So once again, yes, human alien hybrids. They were taking human DNA to create alien human offspring. Sound familiar? Kind of like the Queen alien from Andromeda. Kind of like, Nephilim offspring. Just keep in mind, those fallen angels, they did not just breed with human beings. They bred with every type of life on this planet. Don't ask me how. I don't even like to think about it. They could not stop themselves. They wanted to corrupt everything that God created. Everything. From humanity all the way down to the tiniest organism. Hopefully you get in the picture here, guys. And then Farscape. This will be the final series pop culture series I talk about today, at least, regarding this conversation. Now, back in the day when this show first came out, I really enjoyed it. I was really into it. I watched it as much as I could. Once again, didn't get the chance to watch the whole entire series. Life happens. Got busy with stuff. I just wasn't able to watch TV for whatever reason. I had to work or whatever. I watched a lot of it. I really enjoyed it. And no joke, within the last week, week and a half, started watching it again from the beginning. And by and large, yeah, I still enjoy it. But done some very disturbing things about the show as well. Now, keep in mind, this is created by Jim Henson, the Muppet guy, the puppet guy. Jim Henson, he entertains children. At least he used to. Before he passed away, he's a big entertainer of children. So, I already knew there was woke stuff in there, like strong, independent female characters, nonsense like that. But I was not expecting the stuff that I've recently discovered in the first season alone that I never caught before. Like I said, I'm going back to this stuff with fresh eyes, with renewed faith and discernment through the Holy Spirit. And this stuff is just jumping out at me. Absolutely mad crazy. About to find out what I'm talking about here. Jim Henson, guys. Jim Henson. Keep that in mind. Jim Henson. Very popular with kids, at least back in the day when I was a kid. The Muppets. I used to love the Muppets. Freaking love the Muppets. You got no idea. I was a huge fan of the Muppets as a kid growing up into adulthood. I'm still a fan of the Muppets. You got the Muppet movies. The earlier Muppet movies were just phenomenal. I had so much fun. So keep in mind, this is advertised as Jim Henson. Jim Henson's Farscape. You pull out, you watch the show and everything, it pulls up the title screen, it says Jim Henson's Farscape. So what do you think is going to happen? Children are going to watch it. And it's actually rated TV 14 for teenagers. Just shy of being children. So, once again, watching this stuff without having any understanding of what you're watching, it's going to have an impact up here and in here. Whether you like it or not, whether you know it or not. Let's talk about why that matters. We got Zan here. Pretty popular character in the show. Blue-skinned alien. Bald. Tall. Lanky. But at the same time, very powerful. Very strong. She's much stronger than she looks. She has superhuman strength, pretty much. Now, touching on reality. Does anything jump out at you when you're making a connection between this character and real life, let's say, entities? They're very famous in certain circles, let's put it that way. Does anything jump out at you? Have you ever heard of the gray aliens? Humanoid, but let's just say deformed. Big, huge eyes, bald, odd gray skin. Yeah, I would say not too crazy dissimilar from Zan here. She got the blue, slightly grayish skin. Odd eyes. Once again, tall. Lanky, as the Greys are. Greys are lanky. And Greys are strong. They're very large creatures. And they're strong. She's tall and strong and lanky. But wait, there's more. She's also a priest in some fictional alien religion. To be more specific, well, priest is a misnomer. It's a misdirect. It's to deflect from what she really actually is. In reality, she's an alien space witch. She engages in what is witchcraft on the show, but they disguise it as alchemy, which can be used in witchcraft, and they disguise it as scientific experiments. She's actually performing witchcraft. She has sonic powers, psychic powers that she amplifies with her witchcraft. And She loves to get naked. She's all about the humpity bumpity, the sensuality of the physical form. And she displays it as much as she can get away with on the show. Now, you give her a full head of hair, she could be attractive. I'm not into bald women, just saying. Give her a full head of feminine, womanly hair, she could be attractive, quite attractive. Now, I know for a fact there are a lot of guys out there, they don't care about the fact that she's bald. I know that for a fact. So the fact that she's bald puts her in more of an androgynous state of being. Even though you can clearly tell, yeah, I mean, she's well endowed, let's put it that way. As the show likes to flaunt. So we got ourselves an alien space witch, reminiscent of the great aliens that are popular in real life conversations. Very sexual. Very sexual being. Sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? Now, as we learned in previous conversations, the cult of Bashira, yeah, they're big into witchcraft. Very big in witchcraft. Highly sexual. And for a lot of you that don't know, well, the Nephilim angels, they used to be able to take human form. When they would enter into the physical realm, they could take human form. It got to the point God punished them, and he took away their human form. Basically just burned their human visage away permanently. They can no longer take human form. So now, the closest they can get, it's basically a lot like this, only not nearly as attractive as some guys might think. Fun fact. Hopefully you're following along here. And then we got this character. I forget her name. One of the episodes, they end up on this planet. Everybody's all... It's like Woodstock. Everybody's doped up, lovey-dovey. Big old commune. Hippie, very hippie stuff. As it turns out, she is feeding them this plant that is a drug. And it suppresses everything. Except warm, fuzzy feelings. Free love air. Yeah, everybody's can sleep with whoever they want. And you can see she's a fairly ethereal character. In fact, she's kind of a lot like Zan. Except she has hair, dreads, but hair. And she's this pale white instead of this blue, slightly grayish Zan. So it's almost like two sides of the same coin. You got the gray persona, gray alien persona, and then you got this being of light, almost like ethereal, you know, almost like an angel. Two sides of the same coin. Funny that. Very interesting imagery. They meet and they have a shared greeting, where the two become one for a brief moment in their touch. Remember, guys, none of this stuff is accidental. All this stuff is by design. There's a purpose to this stuff that they put together. And the story continues. So, Crichton is trying to help everybody out. He's trying to break the hold of this drug over everybody. And there are these people that are naturally immune to it, and they have discovered this extremely rare worm, like a parasitic type worm, and they implanted it in him through his belly button. Very disturbing scene. Now, it protects him from the drug, but it just makes him feel awful, horrible. He just feels sick all the time, all that stuff. Not pleasant. Almost like a form of possession. Considering the conversation, don't dismiss it. Now, Zan and the others, Dalgo? So, I forget his name. Dargo. Zan and Dargo, they're juiced up. They've been drugged up. So they don't want to leave. They want to stay. They're staying with Dargo for a night. There's only one bed that they can use. Zan's got no problem sharing the bed with him. No problem whatsoever. I'm not saying anything happens, but could have. If you don't believe me, well, this happens. In her sleep, she rolls over, boom. Puts her hand in a very strategic location. Not granted she's sleeping, but clearly it's a very natural thing for her to do. And they both wake up like this. Now I'm sure it's meant to be on the surface. It's meant to be amusing. Meant to be funny. Until you look at it with fresh eyes, with open eyes, clear eyes. And you start to see what's going on beneath the surface. At least I hope you do. So we got a character here. Made in one of the images of a Shira. Very much engaging in the behavior of a Shira. Presented as, well, for lack of a better phrase, a disciple of Ashira. She's a priest in a very sexual cult. She's a sacred slut, is what she is. As for the resident aliens, well, this is what they look like. Like I said, free love type of deal. She has this very interesting tattoo on her belly button. I can't get a clear look at it. It almost looks like two either tentacles or dragon heads. Something coming up and out, going like that. If anybody recognizes what that symbol is, let me know. I'm very curious. I would like to know. I can't tell. But I'm willing to bet there's some sort of meaning behind it. Like I said, they don't do anything by accident. It's a very high probability that thing means something that only somebody with inside knowledge would know. Oh yeah, and then getting ahead of myself. There was another episode that I just watched last night. They go to this planet. Crichton gets whammied. Now, his physical body drops to the ground, but his spirit, his soul, gets kidnapped by this sorcerer. Full-blown black magic type of dude. I got that backwards. I should have done that the other way. In fact, the name of the episode was That Old Black Magic. Just in your face. So this guy is, well, Crichton ends up referring to him as a vampire. Just very, it's touching on a rabbit hole here. Let's just say it deals with hybrids and very demonic, satanic stuff. Literally called That Old Black Magic. And he is referred to as a sorcerer. Or a vampire. Keep in mind. Shira, the cult of Ashira, is all about witchcraft. Which includes sorcery. And before Crichton gets whammied, well, this happens. This dude, who I'm pretty sure is actually the sorcerer in one of his forms. He can take any form he wants. he's talking to Crichton, gibberish, whammy type nonsense. And he literally reaches down very briefly, but so fast you miss it if you blink. He literally puts his hand down, touches him right there, in a place he should not be touching him. Crichton doesn't react at all. He's just literally no reaction. It's like this is definitely one of, if not the most disturbing scene I've ever seen in mainstream pop culture that was put on TV, unless you include, up until the Orville. There's a full-blown gay porn episode. That was actually worse than this. Not by much. Just this one little thing alone is bad. It's almost as bad as the entire episode. In some ways, it's actually worse because Crichton doesn't even react. I'm going to tell you something here, guys. This was actual witchcraft being performed. And keep in mind, Cult of Bashir, they're big on the witchcraft. This was actual witchcraft being performed live on set, recorded for the show. I have a personal experience with somebody that they didn't touch me. They didn't touch me in this manner. They touched themselves. It was I had a job, and I'd have to go to customers' houses to perform service. Normal job, nothing janky. The owner of the house came out, and he wasn't touching me, but he was touching himself in this exact manner, repeatedly. I looked him dead in the eye for 5 minutes straight, and he did it the entire time. He was slowed down, and he was looking at me with disbelief. He had sunglasses on, but I could tell by his facial expressions. He was looking at me with disbelief because he could not believe that I was looking him dead in the eye and not saying anything, to the fact that he was diddling himself like this. It took me a while to figure it out, but I finally realized he was engaging in a witchcraft ritual. They use sexual perversion, degeneracy, sexual abuse it's called sex magic is what it's called, guys. It's an actual thing. It's called sex magic. I witnessed it firsthand. This is a sex magic ritual performed on camera for the Farscape show. As we just talked about, Zan is a character both modeled after Ashira and as a disciple of Ashira. Hopefully you guys are starting to understand just how deep this rabbit hole goes. Who the true seductress of the Heart of Geekdom actually is. This stuff did not just form out of a vacuum. Somebody made this stuff happen. She's not the only principality entity out there. But as far as this stuff goes, this is all Ashira. She is the seductress of the Heart of Geekdom. And I have witnessed, both in my personal life and through social media, just how extensive and complete her influence has become. You can't have a conversation with people without them losing their minds. Call them out for their perversion, and they literally just lose it. Fly into a rage. They're just like, oh, yeah, they mock, they ridicule. They openly embrace their perversion. It's like they have no idea just how badly they've been whammied. This has been going on for decades. Well over a century. They've been building up to this. Now they're openly flaunting it in our faces. Now this is from, I want to say late 90s? 1990s? I forget exactly. It's at least like the late 1990s. Two and a half decades ago? And they've been Shirley Temple. Look up Shirley Temple. Been going on for over 100 years with their perversion, openly flaunted in our face, pretty much since day one of motion pictures. And they've gotten so very blatant about it. So very blatant about it. Now, yeah, that old black magic, not by accident, flaunting it in your face, and you have no idea. Well, I watched this back in the day, first time. I remember this episode. These details did not jump out at me. The dude grabbing Crichton, completely missed it the first time around. Don't know how. Must have blinked. They sit there and they tell you exactly what they're doing. They're engaging in that old black magic. Right on the show. Now, I was trying to figure out my thumbnail. And if you haven't guessed, the thumbnail is, the main picture is AI art. I am not a fan of AI art in general, but it does have its extremely limited uses. Extremely limited. I needed a picture, for a Shira that was impossible to find. So I had to default to AI art to make it happen. Now, I went through a lot of images to find the right one for the thumbnail. Some of the stuff that popped up was very surprising. Let me explain why. AI is trained on vast amounts of information. Vast amounts of information. Or it draws inspiration from what it knows from that information. So when I typed in a couple different iterations, Ashira, Goddess Ashira, etc. And there's different types of AI programs that can create this stuff. Image generation. Some of the stuff it came up was very surprising at first glance. And then once I stopped to think about it, it wasn't as surprising as it. What was surprising is that AI made the connection and came up with it. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So this was for an Ashira prompt. Just a single word, Ashira. I forget which generator it was. Now clearly this is like a fake AI version of Egyptian hieroglyphs. But something in that AI program made the connection between Ashira and ancient Egypt. Very fascinating, right? Why would it make that kind of connection? Well, there has to be a connection between Ashira and Egypt somewhere. Wait till you see this one. Another iteration, an Islamic Muslim mosque. So there's also a connection between Ashira and Islam. The AI didn't just pull that out of thin air. It went through all of its information that it had access to. Somewhere in that information, it had access to information on Ashira. Made a connection to an Islamic mosque. I keep something in mind here, guys. These entities, specifically Ashira here, they have taken on countless identities and forms throughout human history. They are not known by one name. They are known by multiple different names and identities. They hop from civilization to civilization to civilization, assuming a new identity, but with many of the same characteristics. Because they have their favored characteristics. They have their individual personalities. Ashira is the goddess of lust for a reason. So anytime you hear about a goddess of lust, doesn't matter what civilization it is, you can bank on that being just another identity for Ashira. Oh wait, there's more. Now this one really shocked me. Now what I'm about to show you, do not get all twisted about it. Do not jump to conclusions. Okay? Do not jump to conclusions. I'm not making a statement with this. I am sharing with you guys what the AI, the connection that it made to Ashira. We're going to have a brief conversation about it so I can clarify. For some reason, one of the AI, I'm pretty sure this was the same one as the other two. Some reason it connected Ashira to the Star of David. Now keep something in mind here, guys. The Star of David is a biblical symbol from God. This is not, the Star of David in and of itself is not demonic. It's not demonic, guys. It's not demonic. It is a symbol from God. It's actually a holy symbol. If you remember if you recall the previous conversation earlier, well, Ashera wanted to be the mother of mankind. She wanted to be the wife of God. And all that goes along with that. So looking at it through that lens, it's not as surprising. But this AI made a connection between Ashera and the holy symbol Star of David. Just saying. And then there were some more. So we got this one here. Some sort of really lame Art Deco thing. Star. You got the star off to the side on the left, sitting next to a moon. And on the other side you got a sun. In the middle, I'm not sure what that's supposed to be. On the right, that's clearly supposed to be a sun. In the middle, a swirly thing? I don't know what that's supposed to be exactly. Except, keep in mind, it's swirly. It is swirly. Very swirly. There is a symbol for PDF type people that used to be secret because they got their secret codes to talk to each other. And the symbol used to be a secret thing for the PDFs. It told other PDFs that they were in fact PDFs, specific type of PDF. And this particular symbol is a swirly symbol. It's the only connection I can make. It's the only thing that makes sense to me. You also have the sun, the moon, the star. Why is that significant in connection to Ashera? Well, she's often presented as a moon goddess. So any society that worships the moon, they're not worshiping Ashera. The sun, a lot of times that's Satan. The star, I'm not sure. Could be Baal. Could be Moloch. I'm guessing Baal, though. Ashera and Baal have a very convoluted relationship, rather. So yes, this particular AI, this was a different one, made a connection between Ashera and what you see here. Do the math. And which connects it to PDF. Abomination. This one, you would not believe how accurate this image is of Ashera. This is just one of her forms. And it's not exact, but it's one of the closest ones I've seen to this particular form. The actual form is far worse than this. This is by AI. AI made this connection. AI knew about this form. And the question is how? How did AI know to connect this to Ashera? That is a question I want to know. Here's just one more form of Ashera. Multiple arms. Who does that remind you of? What, Shiva? I think it is. Hindu god. Yes. Now, from what I understand, Shiva is can change between both male and female. Primarily female, but can also be presented as a male. Going back to the whole transgenderism thing. The male priests cutting off the parts to present themselves as women, and women priests cutting off their parts to present themselves as men. That's besides the not modern day insanity that we're dealing with. That thing right there between the demon horns looks an awful lot like a pyramid with an eye underneath it, surrounded by a sun. The AI knew to draw the connection between Ashera and this. I have discovered extremely disturbing things about artificial intelligence, guys. This is just like the icing on the cake. There was another type of AI program. This is, you know, a form that Ashira used to be able to take before God punished her and the others. Much more attractive, physically, aesthetically pleasing. If you notice the headdress, it's very reminiscent of this thing. So it seems to be a common theme with Ashira. Go back to what I was talking about regarding this form. Another one. Once again, physically pleasing. Got the same odd headdress. Different style. Same elements. Oh, and she got her little bat wings. Clearly denoting that, well, she might not be a demon. She has a very close connection to demonic entities. Considering the fact that she did, in fact, give birth to some. And this is the one I settled on for the thumbnail. This seemed like the most fitting. Womanly, feminine. Same strange headdress elements. You would not believe how accurate this representation is of Ashira, the real Ashira. You would not believe it. Now, to wrap things up here. These entities have gone by many different names, identities, forms. You saw with the Shiva stuff, multiple arms, 2 arms like a normal human being, whatever the case may be. They love playing dress up. You gotta understand something. These entities, they love playing dress up, guys. They love it. They're immortal. They get bored easy. So they gotta keep themselves entertained. They love playing dress up. And they don't have a permanent physical body. So they get to play around with that. Which is not something I don't want that. I like having my own permanent physical body. I like it. I like being a man. I like the fact that I have an X and a Y chromosome. I embrace it wholeheartedly. I love God for making me a man. These entities, they don't have a permanent physical body. They can play dress up all they want. Especially in the spiritual realm. Keep in mind. Keep in mind. God took away their physical human form in the physical realm. But in the spiritual realm, they still have free reign over what form they take. They love to dress up as human beings that you know. I'm fairly certain this is one of her favorites. Depending on the circumstances. Now, these other identities. Can you guess what other identities Ashira has taken over the years? You might be surprised. So you might have heard this one. Ishtar. I forget where some of these come from. Ishtar might have been like Assyrian or Babylonian, something like that. I don't know. One of those ancient civilizations. Ishtar. There's another one, Astarte. I just looked some of these up. Astarte I'm not very familiar with. But it sounds like something she would do. She would take. And then Ashtoreth. I totally forgot what that one was. I should know that one. There's another one, Freya, which was, it's either German or Viking. Might be Viking. I think it might be Norse. Now there's another one that's going to be more familiar to a lot of people. Once upon a time, Ashira went by the identity of, well, Venus. Hopefully it's a little bit of a light bulb moment there. Venus, the goddess of love. From Rome. Roman times. One more. This one might surprise you. You might be even more familiar with this one. Well, Ashira was also known as Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love, or more accurately, the Greek goddess of lust. So you see, Ashira is not so unknown to the world. The world knows her very well by different names. Ashira is one of her oldest names, but not the oldest. But definitely one of the oldest. Going back to before biblical times. Before the Bible was put to paper. Could possibly be the first name she took when she joined the other angels in rebellion and fell to earth. Possibly. Don't quote me on that. I have a feeling it might be, though. Yeah, you know her as Aphrodite. In fact, Fortnite recently had a new chapter season. I think it was like 2 or 3 of them ago. At war with the gods. Aphrodite was one of the characters. So yeah, Aphrodite is probably the most famous, most popular identities that she's ever taken. It's still popular today. So yeah, you are more familiar with Aphrodite, or well, Ashira, than you realize. And Ashira, aka Aphrodite, is in fact the true seductress of the Heart of Geekdom. Take it from me, guys. That is not a good thing. I know a lot of people out there, they're all about promiscuous sex, stuff like that. Oh, wow, that sounds awesome. That sounds like fun. You need to take this to heart. It is not a good thing. It will ruin your life in ways that you just cannot begin to imagine. If it hasn't already. And society is in a hot mess right now. Pop culture is probably the biggest weapon that they have used against society. Before they could wield it effectively, they had to corrupt and twist the heart of geekdom. Because geeks are the backbone of pop culture. Hate to break it to you. The heart of geekdom is the heart of pop culture. And geekdom has fallen into the gutter of modern pop culture for the worst. And she's the reason why. No. You might be wondering something. How do I know so much about Ashira? Yeah, I've done some research. But the simple fact is, I know Ashira on a very personal level.
Interference detected. Attempting to boost signal strength. Will attempt to re-establish contact. Signal corrupted. Attempting to rebuild holocom matrix. Transmission signal lost. Status of commander unknown.